June 19th, 4 o'clock. We'll start the
Yep, good.
Public
Sorry,
Works.
Carol, Bill here.
Hi.
I'm just checking in.
Hi.
Thank you. Looking great.
Stuck in Delta?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've tried that. Okay, so June 19th, 4 o'clock, we have the Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting. Is there any, let's have a motion to adopt the minutes from the May 22nd meeting?
So moved.
And those in favor? Perfect, thank you. Next committee meeting will be July 17th at 4 o'clock here in the Anderson Room. So are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, Councillor Heath?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to have a discussion. I mentioned this in community safety, and I think this is something that you can probably look at from the transportation point of view of the Chevron station at 2 and Westminster Highway. So we can deal with some of the commotion around there when they lower their prices considerably throughout the day, and the congestion as a result of the 2-road bridge. So whether we can do it just in general discussion or as a agenda item, I'll leave it up to you.
Would we want that as a manager's meeting, or do we want to add that as an agenda item? Do you prefer that just be a manager's discussion, or?
We can certainly discuss that managers, yeah.
Okay, let's leave it under manager's reports then, and if we need to make a motion, we can make one of that. And I would like to add 5A, textile recycling. We received an email from Minister Heyman, and I just wanted to talk to staff a little bit about how we can better recycle textiles in Richmond. So that'll be 5A. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okay, all those in favor? And we'll go move forward. All right, number 1 is Kitty Drive, the traffic calming update. And we'll be talking about the speed cushions that were recently installed. Does staff have anything to add to the report?
Madam Chair, nothing further to add to the report. Staff are available for questions.
Move recommendation.
Okay, Councillor Wolf, you had a question? Oh, sorry. let me click
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Just the only question I had was, like,
It's really fast. You have.
okay, the only question I had was in regards to staff's table on our page, PWT 11, and it focuses on the 85th percentile for the stats, including the average speed going 67 kilometers an hour in a 50 zone westbound, whereas afterwards the installation of the cushions are down to 41 for that direction. Anyway, my question is it like international standard to choose 85th percentile?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, yes, it is. It's an industry standard to determine the level of intervention required for speeding, and it represents the maximum speed that 85% of the traffic on that roadway is traveling at or below.
Great. And then just to follow up, the cushions, is that also kind of industry standard? Is more municipalities are using the cushions instead of the original bumps?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, the speed cushions were developed in consultation with Richmond Fire and Rescue. They prefer the speed humps with these cutouts so that their response times are not impeded.
Great. Then just through the chair, last comment then. Would we, I assume then we'll be hearing more proposals for an area that wants traffic calming to ask for this specific type, because Richmond Fire operates all of Richmond. So I would assume then this is kind of the expectation going forward?
Through the chair, absolutely. This is another tool in the traffic calming toolkit that could be developed in consultation with area residents on other streets.
Okay, anybody else want to speak to this issue? Well, I just want to say how impressed I am. 85% going 42 kilometers or less. That is a fantastic success story. I can imagine we'll probably be doing this in other neighborhoods when we hear about people driving too fast. So thank you. All right, so the recommendation is that we just accept the, I guess, the report. All those in favor? Yeah, good, thank you. Okay, number 2 on the agenda item is North Dyke upgrades concept plan for Linus Lane on number 2 road. And this is a concept plan to upgrade the dike system. And we have Mr. Sparrow here. Do you have anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add, available for questions.
Okay, and I'll just this time click you. Oh, you're clicked. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Yes, through the chair to staff, just a couple questions. First off, so in the master plan, Dike Master Plan Phase 2, was there, I know, I see the list of 4 key objectives on our page 14 that are being addressed with this section. Was habitat compensation or habitat provisions not a component of the Phase 2 plan as well?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, yes, that is included. However, with this project, most of the habitat compensation works are further out into the dike area. And with this project, we're planning not to touch that sort of intertidal area.
Oh, so could you just maybe explain then on our page PWT 15 kind of shows the topographical map of the area. And the red line is the section of dike we're talking about here. So you're saying that that intertidal space to the north of River Road, much of that will not be impacted where the granite rock will slope down. Some of that will remain on the river side of the rock?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, yeah, that is correct. So most of the works are where the existing dike is and going south. And again, a lot of that area that's to the north of the existing pathway will remain as is.
Okay, thanks. Through the chair, 2 more question areas. On our page 18, it mentions some of the key stakeholders that will be involved during the engagement with key external stakeholders. I just question why Ministry of Environment is not on there for BC as well as the Forest and Water and others, because under the BC Ministry it includes climate preparedness, adaptation strategies, environmental assessment office, which is now taking more of the federal work as well. Spill preparedness, response, and environmental protection, would that not fit, or are they just a stakeholder, just not in this key list?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, these are the entities that we typically require permits from, so that's where our engagement is. Certainly, again, through the project, if other ministries are involved, we will need to contact them as well.
Okay, great, thanks. And my last question, actually, sorry, two last ones. They have recently there was an article in the Richmond News about the contamination potential of the works yard site from historical deposition of soil that was on Sea Island at a chemical plant, and then it was buried and capped underneath the existing works yard. So I didn't note in the report here, it mentions that the works yard replacement project is expected to have minimal impact in relation to this dike work. I just, I don't know, I have caution that if we're digging up an area that's adjacent to a potential hazardous waste site, that we might find things. So are we preparing for that as well?
We have Mr. Ring has come to say.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Councillor Wolf. Yes, we are doing a full environmental assessment on the works yard site, and we have actually, through the records, unearthed documentation of that original deposition in 1980 of those contaminated soils. So we actually have a detailed map surveyed in of exactly where those materials are in the works yard. It's just north of the gas station, if you're familiar there. We'll provide council with an update on that to show you a map, just so there's some clarity around that. But in regards to that contaminated materials disposal, none of that footprint overlaps with this dike project.
Oh, thank you for that. And yeah, your continued work on that investigation. Hopefully we don't discover much at all. And then my last question in regards to the trees being removed for this section of the dike. It does say at the top of page 18 that there's certain trees south of River Road that are needing to be removed. But looking at the map and familiar from the river's view of this section as well, that there are also significant trees on the north side of the dike. So will any of those be impacted that we know of at this point?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, yeah, so any of the trees that are impacted, we will take a look and assessment if they can be retained. If they can't be retained, again, we might need to remove some of those trees.
Okay, great. Thank you for all that. Thank you. That's all.
All right, we'll go with Councillor Heed next. I'll click on Heed.
I only have 5 last questions. You know, thanks for this. I certainly looking forward to this. The project, the initial phase is going to go from Two Road Bridge just to Linus Lane, correct?
That's correct.
And what's the anticipation to go further down River Road?
Through our capital plan, we'll develop further plans, and currently that's not in our current plan right now to do further sections towards the west. Towards the east, there's other development sites amongst the ASPAC properties, which would ultimately develop as they proceed.
So they would, from the, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Councillor Heed. Yes, we're coordinating this with the Works Yard project, and the Works Yard project scope, as council has approved it, we'll be bringing back to you probably in the early fall, if not sooner. I don't think we'll make it before the summer, with broader scoping of the design criteria for the Works Yard with regard to the level of build and things like that, and the general guiding principles for council endorsement. So that plan right now frees up pretty much all the land on the north side of the Works Yard. So everything, you think of the recycling depot, everything west of that, where we currently have our stores area and the RCMP storage and everything, all of that will ultimately be freed up for council's consideration of what to do with that land in the future. But the concept is to raise the whole Works Yard. When we do that, whatever you end up wanting to do with that surplus land, we'll probably raise it to the dike heights as well, and then that portion of River Road fronting that portion of the property we'll consider raising in a future project.
Thank you. A couple of questions with the design as indicated on page 17. So the way I look at this, and I guess my first question is, the new multi-use path, will that be paved?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed. So yes, the pathway that is adjacent to the vehicles will be paved, but the gravel pathway on top of the dike, consistent with the continuous pathway, will remain gravel.
Okay, and we'll still retain that sidewalk on the south side?
That's correct.
I only had 3 last questions. Thank you.
Okay, that's Councillor Liu is next.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this. So looking at PWT 17, the new sidewalk on the south side seems quite a bit lower than the road. I imagine there will be drainage to make sure that that's not just a little ditch in half the season.
Yeah, to Councillor Liu, yes, correct.
Okay, also, is it far enough away from the road that it's not going to be unpleasant to walk there when there's all the exhaust and things from the road?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu. So yeah, there is adequate space. It's fairly far. Again, looking at it, it's a little bit closer, but fairly similar width away from the road previously from the vehicle traffic.
Okay, and then there's still the trees there and stuff, so there's a bit of a buffer, you know, if anything should happen and somebody veers off the road, goes down the embankment, there's
Yes.
something between the cars and the people.
Through the detailed design, again, we're hoping that a number of the existing trees that would be removed in this area can be replanted, and so create a little bit of a buffer in that area.
Okay, is it much more expensive just to raise the level of that road in there versus having that weird dip in there?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, there are a number of connections, including some parkade and stairway connections, which dictate that we must be in some areas lower. Through the detailed design, we'll flush out some of those details.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Recommendation?
I just want to have a question too. So I see the cost for this part of the dike upgrade is $34.5 million, and I understand the feds will cough up for about 40% of that?
To the chair, yes, this is part of the a grant project. That is the overall project. This project is much lower in cost. It's not 34 million.
Okay, and then there's going to be a new multi-use pathway along that strip. Is there any way we can get funding from TransLink for any of that?
Through the chair, yes, that is a partially grant-funded project.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, so then it's going to be a lot higher, but as we build the next sections, then that will be raised to that height, just like we have on the South Dike.
That's correct.
Yeah, perfect. All right, well, thank you. So we're being asked to approve this so we can go to public hearing, public consultation, I mean. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Perfect. Okay, let's move on to number 3, which is the award of contract 8225Q for bike reuse pilot program. And this contract is for about $91 million and to start a bike reuse pilot program. And that money would be going to a Pedal Foundation. So do you have anything to add to the report?
Madam Chair, nothing to add, but happy to take any questions.
Okay, Questions from committee? Councillor Wolf, just click on you.
Thank you. Through the chair, not too many questions here, but I do appreciate the kind of breakdown, the fact that there was only one respondent to the request for quote process. In many cases, we'd say, well, let's put it back, let's ask for more options before we make a choice. But I think in this case, this organization is very innovative and is kind of a leader in the field and doing something that has been identified as a waste reduction problem. And I think with the fact that we have 10 to 15 bikes per week get dropped off at the depot and go straight to metal scrap, right now, I don't want to delay further, waiting for further bids. I think every month that goes by, there's over 100 bikes that are probably good that are going to metal scrap. And that's just through our depot, let alone all the other paths that they take to get to the scrap metal. And then I also appreciate the breakdown here on the contract. So we're considering a 1 year, and then we have option for 2 additional 2-year terms. I like that. And then I guess my question leads to the fact that Pedal Foundation is a nonprofit society. They have charitable status. On their website, their Pedals for the People program, which you highlight in the report, says that they take 80 to 100 bikes every year and give them out through this program. It doesn't mention anything on that program about Richmond. It seems like they will take applications from anywhere in Vancouver area, Metro Vancouver. So my question is, by them being potentially awarded this program, have they committed to upping their number of bikes per year? And is there any connection to Richmond-specific recipients of the bikes?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, they actually have increased. I think the statistics you've quoted were on the website. So they've shared that in 2022, 312 bikes were actually donated last year, in 2022. And they have indicated that they are working with the Richmond Homeless Connect events. So they can integrate with the Richmond community here, as well as the International Refugee Support Foundation. Through the Pedals for the People application process, you indicate which city and which community you're in as well.
Okay, great. And then I assume then if they are awarded the contract, after a year, we'll have stats on actual Richmond recipients. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Liu, I believe you have a question?
Thanks. Thank you for this. It seems interesting that we have 500 bikes. Do we know how many would even be usable again?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, we don't at this time. That's why we're looking to run this pilot to get an understanding of the level of refurbishment and reuse that can be done with these bikes through this program.
Okay, because I was down at our community bikes the other day. I had to get a part for an old bike that isn't made anymore, so they dug through some bin and pulled one out, and we went home and fiddled around, changed it ourselves, but anyway, it worked out and it was a good program. That being said, I'm not sure it was a $80,000 good program. And I also sort of wonder how many people are wanting bikes here in Richmond? Do we know how many groups, how many bikes would be given out in a possible year here in Richmond?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, we don't have that information right now. That's what we were hoping to garner through this pilot program. There are a lot of opportunities to donate to thrift stores throughout Richmond, and comments that we received back is they are receiving an influx of too many bikes for reuse and repair. So that does seem like there is a need for this in our community.
Okay, because then I sort of wonder too, how much would it be if just our staff drove them down to Vancouver and dropped them off? I know often people have them, if they're giving away bikes, they just post on garage sale, whatever, you go pick up a bike from your neighbor for $5 and your day's over. I also know that, you know, you can go to Canadian Tire and get bikes for $200. So we could buy a lot of people and a lot of brand-new bikes for $80,000 is sort of where I'm going with here. Like, it's nice to think that we're saving all these bikes. You know, there is metal recycling here in Richmond, there is scrap metal recycling, there is some space for this, but this isn't producing a space in Richmond, though, that creates that space where people can get parts, have access to parts, or develop skills to fix bikes or any of that kind of stuff. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And not to say that this program isn't a good program, just I think about what our other goals around this might be, right? So if we're just trying to get some bikes reused in Richmond, is this our best mechanism? Is our goal to get people who need bikes to get bikes? Is our goal to build some capacity within Richmond of this sort of buy, sell, exchange, trade, tinker with, fix, support each other with bikes and biking? Is that a goal of ours? In which case, do we want something more here in Richmond? And I think probably Councillor Day has more to talk about that, a possibility for that. Thank you.
Councillor Au.
Yes, I want to ask the question. Do we have similar programs in other cities that we can draw reference from?
Through the chair to Councillor Au, yes. City of Vancouver, through their Zero Waste Centre in Vancouver South, does run this program with the Petal Foundation as well. And Metro Vancouver runs it out of the North Shore Recycling and Waste Centre.
So what has been the experience? For example, right, we're talking about 500 bikes annually. So again, in other cities, what happened? You know, how many did they collect and how many can they really send out?
Through the chair to Councillor Au, I don't have that information at the moment, but I can bring that forward for you.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, you know, 500 bikes annually is a large, big number, right? And I don't know whether or not we can really send them out in a year. So that could be one of the questions. Yeah.
So, anything else?
Yes,
Okay. So I had some concerns about this. Over the course of 5 years, this is a $500,000, 445 plus 91,000 for the storage locker. And I mean, yes, we're going to repurpose bikes, which is fantastic, but you know, some bikes can't be repurposed anyhow. They're just past their end of life. And so we recycle those. Just correct me if I'm wrong. The metal gets recycled, and do we not get an income from that metal?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, so even if they just get recycled, they are recycled, and there is an income potential. I looked into this a little bit more, and what's happening around the province, I mean, or around the Metro Vancouver area, ourcommunitybikes.org, you can simply drop the bikes off, and they will take care of it from there. Cost, zero. Rec for Kids, which is out in Surrey, you can drop off smaller bikes that they don't take at the other one. Cost, zero. And so I'm looking at this program as being overkill, like, you know, or beating it over the head. So I wonder if we wouldn't be better off to refer this back, and because the award is a significant amount of money. So my referral motion would be the award contract of bike reuse pilot program back to staff for alternative options, such as donating the bikes for nonprofit organizations, schools, individuals, who will donate and repurpose the bikes back to people. And that was handed out to council members. Two options that I just found, just looking briefly, which is Surrey has a actual bike repair program, and Richmond also recently had a bike repair program. So I think we should take another look at this. So that's my motion. Is there a seconder for that? I'll second. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on the motion to refer back to take another look? And yes, Councillor Ledoux.
And not to derail your idea and what you brought forward, and I think it's great, and I think sort of further to some of my comments earlier this week when I was talking about the Planet Youth thing and figuring out things for youth, activities, things to do, this might be one of those kind of project programs that we are able to do, where we're able to hire some of these teachers, partner with the school board, hire them for extra hours after school to run this program, partner with the school. I don't know, maybe it's too complicated, and I get that. It may be too complicated to work with those particular groups, but it might be one of those things where, you know, it's the opportunity to have kids doing something after school, do something that matters. if we are going to spend this kind of money, maybe it's a little bit more, but maybe it's actually something that engages kids within our own community, builds capacity amongst them, and helps the community as a whole. So I think that could be a huge opportunity here.
Okay, we have Councillor Heed.
Yes, I've got mixed feelings on this because not every bike is going to be salvageable. And I think we've got to realize that. I think we have to have more of what's going on, like determine which ones, based on someone's interest, is salvageable, whether it's going to go to a school or something like that. So I think we have to be very open on this. I just don't want to see this, as Councillor Wolf has pointed out, the number of bikes that come into the recycling center every week. I think we should start going on some type of assessment on that now. Like, this bin here is going to the scrap metal, and let's throw these out and recycle it whatever way we can. But, you know, this bike has some potential, and I think we identify what groups, the nonprofits, that we would want to get this to. So, you know, I think this is something we can probably start going on now. I think it's 10 bikes a week come into the recycling depot. Michael, does that sound right? 10 to 15 a week. So I just don't want to see this sent back to staff and, you know, all this time we're just chucking these bikes out. I think if we can come up with some interim measure and agree to that and find a nonprofit, you know, whether it's Value Village or whoever it may be, that we're going to send these salvageable bikes to, would be ideal versus just waiting, you know, 6-7 months for the referral to come back.
Do you have something to add, Ms. Nishi?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the thrift stores in Richmond have identified that they don't have storage space for the amount that we would be receiving at the recycling depot.
Okay, and Ms.
Madam Chair,
Myra?
maybe I can just add that this is a pilot for the first year of the program as we presented it. What we've painted the picture for you here is if we were to continue it, it would go for 5 years and would be this additional cost. But the intention before we would extend the contract would be to see how the program goes within the first year of the pilot. And it can be ended after year 1 if we think there are other alternatives. I appreciate the ideas that we've heard, but they do take staff resources and time to be able to go to make those assessments, to go through the bikes, to load them in vehicles and to take them off. Whereas in this case, there's a company that will actually go through them for us. So we could review it for a year if council so wishes, and then we could come back and identify whether there are other opportunities, and we don't have to continue the contract after the first year, should we choose not to. So that's just an option to consider.
Did you have something else to add, Mr. Council Heed?
Well, certainly I'd be fine with that. I just don't want us to hold this in abeyance for 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever it's going to be while staff does this. You know, recognize, yes, staff is going to have to do some work on this. We realize that. But if we've got a pilot we want to set out for a year's time, I think we should look at that right now. And I'm sure staff has heard the comments here, and if they can come up with something better after that year's time, if we could bring that matter back to us, it would be appreciated.
Ms. Nishi, is there a possible, I mean, it's pretty obvious when a bike is done. I mean, it needs to go to scrap metal, but there are bikes, and I've seen them myself when I've been down there, that are actually in pretty good shape. Is there any reason that those bikes couldn't simply be put aside, even with a free sign on them?
Madam Chair, we do have a scavenging bylaw for the recycling depot. So if a resident were to take that, it would be in contravention with that in our bylaw. As well, there is some liability concerns because they would be taking a bike from the city if they were to injure themselves. So that was the addition of the contractor did take some of that away from the city.
Well, okay, as Councillor Liu just pointed out, what if the bike was simply taken and put the other side of the fence and free bike? I mean, we don't have to, I mean, how long would it take to come back with a review of this pilot program to look at contacting one of the 4 groups that I have, hopefully maybe Councillor Au, could you pass over the information that I gave you to staff? Yeah, I've got extra copies. Like, I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be possible to take a quick look. It doesn't take 6 months to look into this, I don't think. How long before a turnaround? Could you come back in a month with maybe some more suggestions? Ms. Bycroft?
Madam Chair, I'm not familiar with the information, but staff are happy to take this away and report back. I'm going to commit Ms. Nishi within a couple to 3 months to be able to report back if that's acceptable.
Well, once they take a look at it, they might have a better idea
Yeah.
by Monday what
Yeah.
we can do.
Okay, well, let's, with all those in favor of referring this back to take a quick look and options, I vote for it. And those against? Okay. So what do you vote? You're the tiebreaker, Councillor Heed.
If he abstained, he's for.
Struggling.
Yeah, it's a.
Let me just explain a little further, is we have to do something.
Yeah.
And I'm, whether it's 3 months, I'm not prepared to let these, at this time of year, let these bikes go through. So I'm certainly open to having what is before us go in a pilot for 1 year, and then let's see what we can do. I think that's the best point that we can do at this particular time. I just, recognize the nice weather and all that, and I'm sure some of them are salvageable and could be given to groups or something like that. So I'm in support of the recommendation here to do the pilot for a year and then come back with a fully detailed analysis on the success or failure.
Mr. Irving?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe if I could potentially help on the bit of the deadlock here. Yeah, this typically with these kinds of contracts, we do present to council the option to support the contract. It's typically a 3 or 5 year term, so we have the second recommendation, which also authorizes staff to renew the contract. An option you could consider is just simply deleting recommendation number 2. So that would explicitly say you're just going to approve the 1 year pilot contract, and then staff would have to come back to council to do any further renewal. And at that time, we could bring you additional options and analysis on the performance of the pilot and what have you. So just an option if you want to consider that.
That's a very good suggestion. So let's finish with the referral motion first. Those in favor of referring it back for another look is Councillor Au and Councillor Day. Those against? Okay, Councillor Heed, Wolf, and Liu. So that fails. So the suggestion was that we skip option 1 and option 2 and go straight to item 3 of the on the agenda, which is that one-time funding of $91,000 from the. Oh, you want? Okay.
We vote on 1, we agree on 1, we vote on 2, we don't agree on number 2, and then we agree on number 3 to make the 1 year work.
Okay, I guess, yeah.
Financially, that's all.
Mr.
Yeah.
Irving?
Sorry, for staff, we would need 1 and 3.
1 and 3.
We
yeah.
don't need 2.
Yes,
Okay,
but we still have to vote on it because it's in front of us. We can.
right, you are. Okay, so on option 1,
So
which
move
is.
number 1.
Yep, motion to do number 1, and all those in favor? Okay, and option, or item number 2, which is that the 3-year contract for $445,000 moved and seconded. Those in favor? Just Councillor Wolf? Those against? Everyone else? Perfect. Now it takes us to number 3, one-time funding for $91,000. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Again, I'm going to vote against that. So Day against.
No, you want the money for the thing for the first year, that's all.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, we could buy 500 bikes for $200 each and be cheaper. Okay, that takes us on to item number 4, which is a Richmond Water Quality and Conservation Report. And we have Mr. Shepherd is going to update us on this, if there's anything that's not in the report.
Madam Chair, nothing to add to the report, and we're available for questions.
Excellent. Okay. Does anybody want to speak to this item? No. I had a quick question. On page 26, we talk about the 39 water fountains. And I had a request from someone in the community to install signs to better direct people where to go when, especially when we have a heat wave. Where are those water fountains? And what do you have, any thoughts about that?
Madam Chair, we are evaluating the request that came in for the SkyTrain station. And we're also trying to work with TransLink to understand if there's options to have fountains installed at the SkyTrain station. And we're also looking at advertising where the nearest fountains are on a tap map.
Oh, great. And I was really thankful for the map that you sent out, so I've shared that with the public, because I think people need to know where are the water fountains, especially as things start to get hotter. And I was very impressed that we repaired 69 leaks without having to have disruption in service, so great work there. And it's always amazing to me that we could decrease our water use even though we have 32% more residents living in Richmond. So it really speaks to the water program, so well done. All right, do I have a motion to accept number 4? Seconded, all those in favor? Good. Okay, Councillor Wolf, you put together item number 5, which is Connecting BC. Do you want to speak to that motion? Or that item?
Yes, yes, very briefly. Thank you, Chair. So this is, there's a small attachment at the back of our package here. It's like the highlight of the BC Federation, along with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives program called Connecting BC, 10-year vision and investment plan for public transit throughout BC. This is nothing that has come to us before because it's only gone to the TransLink and Mayor's Council. If you go to the website for this, which I think I included in the email to all of you a week ago, and on that, it does have some endorsements or testimonials from some of the mayors in the region, including Langley City, Port Coquitlam, North Vancouver, and Burnaby. And they highlight the fact that this plan is really like the alternative to the status quo TransLink plan that is improperly organized and funded from the province. So local municipalities see this as a call to the funder and TransLink to improve services. And so I am asking that we refer this to staff for them to review it and perhaps come back with a recommendation for us to receive the staff comments, or perhaps to have committee go a step further towards endorsing it or asking TransLink to respond to some of the benefits that we see for it. So that's all I'm asking, is for it to go to staff for review.
Is there anybody on staff that would like to make any comments about the Connecting BC program? Mr. B?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Like I have had a look at this. Councillor Wolf brought this up, I think, at the last PWTC, and I had to go look for it. It's a think tank paper from organizations outside of government recommending that government take spending from other non-transit places and use it to fund things like Access for Everyone. I think in general, as an organization, we should be supporting Access for Everyone, but there are some other things in there that we can certainly have a look at it and let council know what's actually contained in there, because there are some other things that may be more difficult or contentious to support.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. B. I read over this, and it was interesting. On page 92, it says new passenger-only ferry to Vancouver Gulf Island, and then there's talk of doubling the number of buses in the next 5 years, and I'm sure we'd all like that, but at a cost of I think $15.4 billion over 4 years. It's
that's some of the stuff to talk about, because at the end of the day, Madam Chair, I'm not certain how the estimates were come about. Maybe they're correct, but they look a little bit cheap to me. I know that the doubling of the buses is part of Access for Everyone at TransLink, so that's something that's already being promoted by TransLink with the provincial government, et cetera.
Yeah.
But there's some other things in there, such as some labor pieces around not having any private industry within the transit organizations and things like that, which may be more difficult to address.
Thank you. Well, I think it's timely to look at all the information that comes forward to council, and if we want to, and if staff can analyze it and make a recommendation to us, it doesn't hurt to turn the rock over and see what's underneath. So do I have a motion to refer this Connecting BC plan to staff for review?
So moved.
And seconded, and all those in favor? All right, perfect, that is passed. Okay, and then I just, at 5A, I wanted to discuss textiles, and we've talked about it before. Councillor Au brought this up recently, and I went on the website because we received an email or a letter from Minister George Heyman, who explains that there is no post-consumer textile recycling program in BC. And we are doing some things here in Richmond, but I couldn't find much on the website. So I wanted to just pass this out to councillors and maybe ask staff to provide more information of where people can recycle textiles in Richmond, because the worst thing that they can do is throw it in the garbage. And according to the details that I got today, there's 10% of solid waste is made up of textiles in our dump. So this is just a request that we give this information to staff and along with Minister Heyman's letter, and see if we can't do better in Richmond. So not really a motion, more of a direction to staff. I'll hand it out in a sec. So that's that. So managers' reports.
Well, I have a comment on
Oh, sorry, I missed you there, Councillor Liu. Hold on. Okay.
Thank you. And I'm sure many people know that we have a number of thrift stores in Richmond. We have the one at Family Place, so if you've got good quality children's clothes, that's the best place for that stuff to go. SOS Children's Village in Steveston, the Hospital Auxiliary, SPCA Thrift Mart that's just up here. There's quite a number of, and as well as RAPS has 2 locations. So we have a number of organizations that do a ton of thrifting. And if your stuff is crappy and not able to be recycled, there's Richmond Fire Halls have those boxes, and they collect stuff that they get shipped out essentially for recycling. And all the Richmond Fire Halls have boxes in front of them for 24-hour drop-off.
Yeah, see, that's great information, and that's the kind of information I'd like to see more readily available on our website, because I have seen it all too often where garments are just thrown even at the side of the road or in a dump beside a dumpster, and that's just a waste. So thank you for those suggestions. Do we have any managers' reports?
No takers? We have adjournment.
Okay. Okay, good. All those in favor? Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, Councillor Heed. Number 2 Road and Westminster Highway, we have a problem with the Chevron station selling gas too cheap, and people are backing up onto the road. So what did you want to ask staff?
Mr. B's bailiwick at this time, we did raise this in community safety, is the Chevron station there for decades has surge pricing and then, lowering the price at certain times that attracts people from all over the area with respect to trying to save their 10, 15 cents, sometimes just 5 cents a liter for their gas. It causes congestion at that intersection, and I'm sure that if someone looked at the traffic incidents that have occurred there as a result of people coming off the 2 Road Bridge going southbound, and you've got people stopped right after the traffic signal at Westminster and 2 Road wanting to turn in to the Chevron station. At one point, several years ago, they used to put cones out to stop them from turning in from number 2 Road and would make them line up back onto Westminster Highway. There has to be something we can do, and I believe it was Councillor Liu was given an example where the RCMP have ticketed in the past, but we can't expect the RCMP to be there at particular times of the day where they should be busy doing something else. There's got to be something we can do from our point of view of trying to prevent this from happening, prevent the accidents from happening, and certainly prevent the frustrations from people that are driving through the intersection.
Do we have anyone from staff that can address that issue? Mr.
Madam Chair, what I can offer is that our bylaw does not permit you to actually linger on the roadway and obstruct the roadway. So it is, those activities are open to enforcement, but I think Councillor Heed already mentioned that.
We've got to do something more than that, and whether this is going to be something through a letter given to them from a business licensing point of view, of them not taking any precautionary measures in order for the incidents not to happen. And it would, I'm sure ICBC or someone could provide the data with respect to the incidents that do happen, but largely is a frustration, and you know, I'm being transparent. I live about a block away from there. I hear the accidents, I hear the screeching, I hear the ambulances, and I drive through that intersection regularly and see the backup at certain times during the day. And I know other councillors have experienced the same frustration. I know Councillor Au lives in that particular area also. So there's got to be something we can do rather than just say, well, we're going to turn it over to the RCMP to deal with it. There's got to be something.
Okay, Mr. B?
Yeah, absolutely, Madam Chair. Like certainly as staff, we could have a look at it. We could certainly try and quantify the problem. We can certainly quantify the accident issues that are being discussed and see if anything's being done anywhere else. Because I mean, this is an uncommon problem in other municipalities as well. But we can certainly have a look at it and see what can be done.
You know, and I think we need to, because like I live at 5 in Steveston, and those gas stations never back up. They're empty half the time, but that one particular gas station is a big concern, and I've seen it where people come off of the number 2 road bridge full tilt and then have to come to a screeching halt. So why don't we leave it as a direction to staff to come back with some suggestions, and we'll see what kind of data we can get from ICBC or the RCMP to confirm the issue at hand. Is that satisfactory? And Councillor Liu.
Thank you. We did mention this at Community Safety, and we asked if there was anything we could do in terms of a byline preventing them from changing the prices throughout the day or limit the number of times. Because we also probably see over here on Granville, the Petrocan there always has price changes, and there's cars out on the middle of the road all over the place and trying to go back and forth in one-way roads as well. But I will put as an aside, while you're at the Chevron, if you go talk to them at the Chevron, they need to trim their bush so you can see when you're getting out back out onto 2 Road. I know everything's grown quite a bit this June from the rain.
Councillor Wolf? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hobbs.
I'm number 2, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Okay, okay, there you're.
Thank you, and through the chair. Yeah, it definitely is an issue. I agree with everything that's been characterized. The thing about this location is it is unique in Richmond. There is no other gas station in Richmond that has a bridge, you know, right at the other end of it. So, and I've witnessed the chaos. I think enforcement is always problematic. So the solution is probably kind of engineering wise. And I think when you talk to them, they're the ones that know when their sales are going on and everything. So if they could have some assistance in developing their own traffic management plan that they could implement when they know that they're putting a sale on, and that could be things like blocking the 2 driveways on number 2 Road, forcing people down Walton, down Dover, down Westminster Highway to come in off Westminster Highway, especially during rush hours, something like that. They might not realize or appreciate the impact they're having on people, and it is a real safety issue. Thanks.
So are we good with that, Councillor Heath? Okay, all right, now we're calling for adjournment. All those in favor? Thank you so much.